In this video, we're going to discuss naming amines. So for this class, naming amines, we're not going to look at the IUPAC naming for the amines, but instead we're going to look at the common naming system for amines. The common naming system simply represent names that are accepted, but they're not based on a set of rules. And so when naming the common name for an amine, we are simply indicating the carbon chain or the carbon group that is attached to the nitrogen. And so depending on whether or not it's a primary, secondary, or tertiary, that will determine how many different alkyl groups must be accounted for in that name. So in this case, we have a primary primary amine, because we have our nitrogen, which only has one carbon atom directly bonded to it. So we have to indicate only one carbon group. This one carbon group that is attached to that nitrogen, so we have that one bond, but it contains two carbon atoms. So this one carbon group would represent an ethyl. So the common name for this amine would simply be ethylamine. So we're just indicating the identity of that R group. So let's look at another one. So now we have a secondary amine, because we have our nitrogen that is directly bonded to two carbon atoms. So the carbon to the left and the carbon to the right. So it's a secondary amine. So our name should account for those two R groups. To the left, so we have that one group that has two carbon atoms. So to the left, we have an ethyl. To the right, we have that one group that only has one carbon atom. So we have a methyl. So again, you want to indicate the names of these groups, but you still want to place them in alphabetical order. So this one would be ethyl methyl amine. If we had this amine, so now we have a tertiary amine, because we have our nitrogen that is directly bonded to three carbon atoms. All three of these represent ethyl. So the way I would indicate the presence of three of the same is to use the prefix tri. So tri means three of the same. All three are ethyl groups. So the name of this compound would be triethylamine. So when naming amines using the common naming system, you're simply identifying those groups that are attached to the nitrogen. Whether or not it is primary, secondary, tertiary is helpful, because that tells you how many groups you need to account for. Primary amines, you're only accounting for one carbon group. Secondary amines, you're accounting for two carbon groups. Tertiary amines, you're accounting for three carbon groups. Once you identify each group, place them in alphabetical order, followed by the name amine.